Hi everyone. Today's session is communication skills for businesses. My name is Shazia Khan, and the unit that we'll be doing is business communication skills. And the learning outcome we'll be doing today is learning outcome 2, which is to understand how organisations communicate with customers. Firstly, I'm just going to give you an overview of what we did in the last learning outcome. So you've got a recap of the last learning outcome, which was learning outcome 1. So in learning outcome 1, we looked at understanding how internal communication takes place within an organisation or a business. We looked at the types of internal communications within an organisation and how information can be transmitted through different various channels. It could be electronically, it could be through verbally. So we looked at the elements of internal communication. We went on to look in learning outcome 1 at the theoretical frameworks. We looked at the different models. Firstly, we looked at the communication model, which was by the American mathematician Claude Shannon and Warren Weaver, and that was originally conceived in 1948. We then went on to look at the Shannon and Weaver model, which looked at 5 elements: source, transmitter, channel, receiver, and destination. We then went on to look at the Barland's transactional model of communication, and how that describes communication as a dynamic process, where both the sender and the receiver of a message are simultaneously encoding and decoding information while engaging in feedback loops. We then went on to the Week's sense-making theory, and how that looks at human interactions and information processing as a central activity of organising. And then finally, the structuration theory by Giddens in 1984, which is a theory of social action. We then went on to look at, in learning outcome 1, mechanisms of internal communication, which was things like formal communication. And then we looked at the types of formal communication, which are things like downward communication, which is the most common type of formal communication, upward communication, horizontal communication, and diagonal communication. We looked at the informal communication networks and how informal communication works in the workplace, and what the difference between formal and informal communication is. We looked at communication technologies, and then we went on to look at the process of internal communication within an organisation and looked at how it was promoted. We then went on to 1.2 and looked at assessing the appropriate use of different internal modes of communication for different purposes. And the different modes we looked at for internal communication were things like, intranet, emails, and we looked at, things like written communication, why that's so important, and oral communication, how it exchanges the element of information, ideas, or messages through written language, and the importance of that. We also went on to look at learning outcome 1 at face-to-face communication and why that's so important, and looked at scenarios in which personal communication may be useful. Things like, examples, annual staff meetings, sales meetings, social gatherings, meetings with managers. And then we went on to look at electronic communication. Types of electronic communication can be things like emails, where it's the most popular form of electronic communication where they can emails go back and forth in regards to messages being sent simultaneously. Instant messages we looked at video recording, we looked at social media and how social media could include things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snapchat. We looked at text messaging in regards to communication, and then we went on to look at 1.3, which was analyse barriers to effective communication within organisations. So there could be so many barriers within trying to get a form of communication across to someone. It might be things like, emotional barriers, physical, cultural, linguistic, language barriers, physical barriers, attitudes, of people's perception barriers, psychological barriers, technological barriers, things like, technology is evolving over time, and not everyone is clear in regards to technology. We then went on to look finally at the last element of learning outcome 1, which was 1M1, which was the legal and ethical issues in relation to communication of information within an organisation, and how that is so important in regards to the things like GDPR and Freedom of Information Act we looked at, and the Data Protection Act 1998 and how it protects individuals' information, and the relevance of that in regards to GDPR as well, the fact that information should be stored properly in regards to personal information. And in Freedom of Information Act, we looked at the element of how the organisations and individuals have the right to request information by a public authority. So that was learning outcome 1 in regards to what elements we looked at. So that's a recap of what we've done. Now I'm just going to share learning outcome 2 with you. So learning outcome 2, let's go on to learning outcome 2. So the slides are there for learning outcome 2. And we'll just carry on with learning outcome 2 in regards to from learning outcome 1. Okay, so learning outcome 2 is to look at understanding how organizations communicate with customers. So the unit aim is to develop knowledge and understanding of communication practices within organizations, and learners are introduced to different modes of channels of communication used in organizations. In addition, learners will be able to develop their own communication skills, and learners will also apply their own communication skills to typical business requirements. So the learning outcome 2 indicative content is to look at formal communications, so things like websites, brochures, letters, newsletters, emails, telephone calls, face-to-face, public relations. Informal communications, things like social media, blogging, influencers. So we'll be going through that. So the key terminology. So what is formal communication? So it's really important to identify firstly what formal communication is, and then move on to the different types and how it affects organizations and how they communicate with customers, because it's so important that organizations communicate properly with customers, because it identifies their business strengths and also identifies that they're able to work with the customers well and not have any issues around that. So formal communication refers to the flow of information, official information, through proper predefined channels and routes. The flow of information is controlled and needs deliberate effort to be properly communicated. So formal, they do overlap, formal and informal, but they are really distinct types of communication, whereas informal communication, in comparison, informal communication refers to communication which is multidimensional. It moves freely from the organisation and is not bound by predefined channels and communication routes. And it's, informal communication is particularly quick, informal, in nature as well. It is also called, in the workplace, it's also referred to as grapevine, and generally begins with employees through social relations. So informal discussions about payroll, about staff members. It could be about anything. In many cases, informal communication can turn to formal communication if they're added into formal communication information flow of a company. Informal communication is considered effective as employees can discuss work-related issues, which saves the organisation time and money, and it helps to build more productivity and healthy relationships within the workplace. So, it covers things like chats and notes and, anything outside of the formal settings. So there's a video here that you could watch, and this video refers to the elements of what a formal communication is and what informal communication is, and the difference between both. So you've got a better idea when you're looking at it, how they relate to each other. So now we're going to go to understanding how organizations communicate with customers. So customers are the core of any organization or any business. So it's really important to build that relationship, to foster any sort of trust with customers, and to make sure that you maintain a strong communication with them and build lasting relationships rather than trying to, not be customer focused. So, happy customers will become advocates for your business. You've got to always remember that they would promote and recommend your business and your brand. You need to build that relationship. It's so important you build that relationship. Take time to be professional and personable with your customers, and listen to your customers, which we'll move on later on. Active listening and the next learning outcomes, you'll love the important. Actively listening is a skill that needs to be developed as well. Develop customer service standards. Resolve customer complaints quickly. It's really important you look at customer complaints and resolve them quickly. So the formal communication channels are things like websites. So a business ability to communicate with its employees, customers, vendors, and associates changed dramatically when the internet yielded new communication. So when the internet came, everything changed. The use of websites, and they're the primary digital presence for organizations. Channels of communication, consumers will use the website. An effective website is valuable for the organization or the company, and it is essential to communicate with customers, no matter what industry you're in. With the right strategy, design, and content, effective websites can attract ideal customers, establish credibility, and crucially convert visitors into buyers and fans. And also, like an advantage is that it is, like you said, 24/7 accessibility. There's no website, that's you need to make the website really good for everyone to be able to use it. And you provide things on the website as a business organization that will support the customer, provide customer support, online transaction, engaging through, like blogs or maybe community forums and things. Some organizations do that work really well. Maybe Dyson and things like that, where there's elements that, they will work well in regards to a forum where they can interact and say, oh, you use things like that, or you try to do it this way. So it does help. Another with how organizations communicate through brochures. Brochures are printed digitally and are a useful tool of communication to showcase the features of a product or services or any sort of elements of brand offers. An effective brochure is designed to create an eye-catching brochure that consumers will refer back to. A brochure is a promotional document primarily used to introduce a company, an organization, or products, as we mentioned, and inform the consumers, because that's the whole point of it, informing the consumers about information, it could convey information about any offers, and it is portable and it's distributed and provide visual content for the customer. So it's a really good form of communication with customers. Another form of communication is letters. So letter is a written message that can be printed on paper. Unlike internal memos, business letters are usually written from one company, so they're formal, but they are quite versatile. While memos are internal communications within an organisation, letters are external messages sent to recipients outside the organisation. And they're a formal way. They're used for delivering important information, personalised messages and formal notices. While an email, text messages, other forms that have replaced letters, the business letter still remains a common and useful form of written communication. So the letter conveys, like we said, an importance of professionalism and provides the physical record of any form of communication. We then have newsletters, and newsletters are a good tool used by businesses and organisations to share relevant and valuable information with their network of customers, prospects, and subscribers. Newsletters give them direct access to the audience's inbox, allowing them to share engaging content, promote sales, and drive traffic to the website. So they inform customers of new products that are being introduced and how the company events, if they've got any events, and they help build up relationships by regular communication with customers and keeping them engaged about the brands. It could be things like, makeup brands like Huda or MAC that introduce new products and want people to become more engaged, and maybe do like events that they can come to, makeup events, to try to promote and promote the product. Emails is another form of communication with customers, and they are widely used. They practically these days, emails are regarded as old-fashioned, but remain one of the best ways to connect with your customers. They're convenient, cheap, and very swift. So if you have a new product, you can use email to offer, send out newsletters or messages, so your customers use the email to get in touch with you. Any sort of complaints or anything. They're used as a marketing transactional messages. They're quick, efficient, trackable, and can be personalized in regards and automated as well. So they're quite a good form of elements of using newsletters emails as well. And it's part of, and I believe it's part of a lot of the businesses. It is one of the key elements that is used, is newsletter emails. The next one is telephone calls. And telephone calls, modern phone technology allows you to use automated menus to provide answers to customers' questions and ensure customers reach the right person in the organisation. While some customers actually complain about such technology, it can help them connect with the most customers in the least amount of time. Telephone offers a more of a personal touch, allowing businesses the opportunity to integrate real-life two-way communication with customers. And people prefer that. Some people prefer telephone rather than emails. And technology is changing all the time. So, the use of smartphones and communicating with customers is really important to any business. So even if it means making the telephone call to make sure that the customer is happy, the organisation or business will use the telephone to maintain that way of communicating with the customers, but also making sure that the customer is happy, and make sure that it can help them connect with the most customers in the least amount of time. And they have new technology on telephones as well now, like callback systems, and making them listen to music, and then getting them to, also, they have elements where you can phone them up and then put the phone down and put your number in, and they will ring back requests as well. So it's really good is the telephone calls. The next one is face-to-face, and face-to-face communication is often more effective than written or audio conversations. This is because seeing someone another allows you to pick up non-verbal cues and body language, and because a lot of the communication is non-verbal, being able to see each other helps them understand each other better. So it's really important in regards to the body language, the voice, and the words they use. So when you communicate with someone face to face, you pass the information and understanding through different elements such as body language, your voice, your words. Good customer relationships are at the heart of greater customer service. Whether you're interacting with a long-term client or first-time buyer, developing a strong rapport is important of building customers' relationships. So face-to-face, greet your customers as they walk through the door. That's really important in any organisation. Ask them how you can help them. If your customers have to wait, it's helpful to have someone greeting you. Make sure you check on your customer. That's really important. Make sure you check on them all the time. And, it's used in sales meetings, customer interaction, new launches of elements as well. The final one is public relations, and public relations refers to strategic communication from an organisation to the public to maintain or cultivate public image or respond to public discourse. Public relations are responsible for building and maintaining relationship between customers, and as it says there, press releases, media engagements, public events, social media, again, the element of a new makeup product being introduced. Effective PR can enhance your brand reputation and manage any sort of crisis. And it will look, the goal of the public relations is to shape how people think about a company, their product, service, or the person themselves. So we've got a summary table here which looks at the communication channels overview, the uses and the advantages, which we've gone through in a little while. So we've gone through our websites, brochures, letters, newsletters, emails, telephone calls, face-to-face, and public relations, and the overview for each one and the uses of it. So for websites, you've got digital presence providing information and services. The uses is customer support, transactions, engagement, and the advantage is 24/7 accessibility. For brochures, it's printed digital documents with detailed information. The uses of it is marketing, education, and promotions. And advantages: portable, easily distributed, visually appealing. And then for letters, formal written correspondence, information is important and personalised. And advantage is professional, provides a physical record. For the newsletters, regular publications with updates and news. Customer engagement, updates, company news, builds relationships, regular communication. Emails, digital tool for direct communication. Uses is marketing, transactional messages, and support. Advantages is quick, efficient, trackable, and personalizable. Telephone calls, the overview, direct personal method. Uses customer support, sales, follow-ups. Advantages, real-time interaction and immediate feedback. And then the communication channel face-to-face is personal interactions. Uses customer service, sales. Advantages, real-time interaction, immediate feedback, personal connection. And then public relations, managing public image, enhancing reputation, and managing crisis. So that table there identified the different communication channels that we talked about with the overview, uses, and advantages. So conclusion and references. In conclusion, organizations use a variety of formal communication channels to interact with their customers, each serving specific purposes and offering unique advantages. So they all have their elements of how they are used for organizations and what their advantages are. By effectively utilizing these channels, organizations can ensure any sort of clear, consistent and engaging communication with their customers, ultimately enhancing customer satisfaction and loyalty. And that is really important in any organization or any business, to make sure that you ultimately are enhancing your customer satisfaction and loyalty. These are the references for elements of looking at communicating in different ways with customers. Now we're moving on to understanding how organizations communicate with customers. Informal communication. So this is looking at informal communication channels. So unlike a one-to-one or intercompany meeting, formal communication covers the chats, notes, and asides we share with one another aside of these formal settings. Effective communication is key to any business, and are times when one form of communication method is better than another. So the first one we're going to go through is social media. We look at the overview of it, the uses of it, and the advantages of it. And these are things like platforms, social media platforms that people interact with customers and engage in two-way communication. So platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn can be connections among colleagues. They stimulate a sense of community among employers, customers, private social media chats among co-workers. Social media has taken over the business and personal sphere and has a long-lasting impact on individuals. As an online communication brings information, awareness, and news to audience, it has facilitated as a resource to humankind, and social media has given the birth of several genes of communication, where conversations have become quicker and information has become easily relayed. From personal benefits to impact in business, several ways online communication has helped the world in many ways using the gift of social media channels, each of its benefits. So, it gets to the whole world, it fosters this sense of community, and, it allows for sharing of information as well. The next one we've got is blogging, and blogging is a platform for content marketing, where companies can publish and share their articles and their stories about the products. The goal of this for blogging is business blogging is a relationship with consumers, so they view the business as positively as they can. Blogging is an exercise through which anybody can communicate with anybody. Any data is nearby, and any update is turning out to be normal news quicker than you at any point. So it's a good chance of in-depth exploration of topics, and it's really beneficial for businesses as a marketing tool. It's one of the most cost-effective ways of promoting the business. Using blog can manage using in-house resources, so no external outlays incurred. Blogs should initiate conversation, as we mentioned, and engage users. Having a successful blog can help the business in a number of ways. So it could be elements of encourages interaction through comments, driving traffic to the website, converting web traffic into leads, and establishing authority in your industry. Generating a constant stream of blog provides valuable fresh content to push out by social media and channels. So it's a way of marketing. A blog is really important for any business. Then we've got influencers, and that again is an important element of having a business communication as well. Influencers, how they interact with the followers via social media include the creation of content, and organizations collaborate with influencers to promote their products. So an influencer is somebody within an organization who's able to shape or influence the opinions and behaviors of other employees. Customers, they are generally well respected by their peers, and there's advantages of having influencers, because influencers can provide authentic, relatable content and access to target audience, and they build this trust and credibility, and their recommendation can significantly impact on customer purchases, and the product that they are endorsing and the brand awareness campaigns and driving any sort of engagement. So they are there to make sure that organizations collaborate with influence to promote their products and their services. So here we have a summary table of informal communication channels. And we've got social media, and the overview of that is real-time interaction with content sharing platforms. The uses of it is brand awareness, customer engagement, promotions, customer service, community building. The advantages: immediacy, broad reach, personal engagement. For blogging, creating and sharing articles and stories, as we mentioned earlier. The uses of thought leadership, industry insights, product updates, driving traffic, improving SEO. And the advantage is in-depth content, builds credibility, encourages interaction. And then we've got influencers, which individuals with significant following promoting brands, uses of it, product endorsements, brand awareness, campaigns, driving engagement. And the advantage is authentic content, targeted audience, and builds trust. So this table looks at the informal communication channels. Conclusion and references. So in conclusion, informal communication channels such as social media, blogging and influencers play a crucial role in how organizations engage with their customers. These channels allow for more personal, interactive and engaging communication, helping to build stronger relationships, foster loyalty and create a vibrant community around the brand. By effectively leveraging these informal communication methods, organizations can enhance their overall communication strategy and better connect with their customers. And these are the references that we've used in regards to looking at the elements of informal communication. Now we're moving on to 2.1, evaluate systems used by organizations to communicate with customers. Evaluation of communication systems used by organizations to communicate with customers, a case study of UK Varsity as an example. So effective communication systems are essential for any organization to make sure that communication is used by organizations, focusing particularly on UK Versity Online, which is an online UK provider. The evaluation will cover the strengths and weaknesses of these systems in facilitating effective communication. So effective communication is really important in any organization to communicate elements of it, but in instance to this, we'll be looking at UK Varsity. So communication systems, they've got websites. So UK Varsity has its own website to provide information about courses, about admission processes, about support services, contact details. The website service is the primary source of the organisation and the customer between the relationship. Also looks at the element of having policies on there so that they're able to implement any sort of policies, that they could read things like plagiarism policy, academic misconduct. So it refers the customer to that. Strengths of that is the website, again, is 24/7, providing customers with information at their convenience, and providing information about the courses as well that they and the process an individual needs to go through if they want to join the course. The comprehensive information there, as we mentioned, it offers detailed information about courses, faculty and services. So who works there, what the UK Varsity is about, the history around UK Varsity, the services they provide, and this is in-depth information for the customer. Interactive features like chatbots and contact forms enable real-life interaction with support. And like UK Varsity, they use chatbots and contact forms, and lots of organizations use that because it has this interaction with customers, and web chat as well. Other organizations tend to use web chat, which helps interact with a chatbot. The weaknesses is that navigation issues. So poorly designed websites can lead to navigation issues, hindering user experience, and excessive information. Having a bad website would, make individuals not use that website. They wouldn't go on it because they would struggle to navigate to, for example, if they were looking at student fees or course information. If they couldn't get onto a good website and there was too much information, they'd stop reading. It's like your CV. They say your CV should be 2 pages. If your CV is 5 pages, no employer will look at that CV again. So information overload is really important, because it could make the individual, it will put them off going onto the website, or it will make them, it will give them, make it hard for them to find specific information. Maybe it be on fees, it could be on the course information, it could be on anything, but sometimes it's difficult. So you need to make sure that your website is clear and sufficient. Email, so an overview, email communication is widely used and personalised information. UK Varsity uses email for sending course updates, newsletters, promotional offers, and customer support responses. And one of the strengths is emails, as we mentioned, it allows for personalised communication and easy, it's accessible, easy, and it's, it's for common inquiries and updates as well. It's a record of communication which can be useful for references. The weakness for emails is that important emails can be filtered into junk mail or spam, reducing the visibility, and customers may experience delays affecting satisfaction. So, the fact that things go into spam or junk mail, and sometimes organisations won't check that, and that would limit customer satisfaction, and there would be delays in responding. So you need to be really careful and on top of things when looking at elements of emails. Social media platforms, again, like Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, promote services, handle customers' inquiries, and it allows for real-time interaction and engagement with a broad audience. So, it's not just nationally, it's internationally. So people will engage with you via social media, and it's one of the effective tools for promoting courses, events, and any achievements. So if there's any sort of open days or any events in graduation, anything like that, in any sort of new courses being developed, or maybe an offer, marketing it is an effective tool on social media to try to get everyone involved. And it's there to try to get them involved and interact and engage with the element of it. Social media provides a platform for customers to give feedback and reviews, which is really good, because they could give feedback about the courses, feedback about any sort of elements, issues they've had. Negative feedback, comments, or reviews can be public and impact the organisation's reputation. So because then, social media, people will put reviews up there, there could be negative reviews which would be impact the organisation or the brand as well. If in any organisation, if they're introducing a new brand, I mean, this is around UK Varsity, but if an organisation is introducing a new brand and someone says this brand is not used or causes an allergic reaction, that could impact on the organisation's reputation in regard to them putting it on social media. Managing multiple social media platform requires time and resources. So you need to have someone there who deals with the IT side of it, but manages the social media side of it as well for your organisation. Telephone calls is a direct and personal method, as we mentioned earlier on about telephone calls. It provides support, consultations. It's a personal touch and it's personal interaction to increase customer satisfaction. And to be honest, if it was me, I prefer telephone calls. I prefer talking to someone and be able to have this personal touch with somebody, but interact with that individual as well, because it's so important to have that interaction, and it could enhance customer satisfaction. It allows for real live problem solving and immediate feedback. So you'd get the feedback straight away with the individual. You'd be able to enhance what's going on, and also make sure that you are, on top of things, and telephone calls is, firstly for me, is that personal touch. The weakness is limited availability of customer service support can lead to wait times. Due to the customer service, they've introduced other things as well, but sometimes telephone calls can, be time, waiting times can be longer. And if you had to maintain a call centre, it could be quite costly. Learning management systems is used by the UK Varsity Online to manage course content, student progress, and facilitate communication between students and instructors. And the strengths of this is a centralised platform the learning management system centralizes all educational materials and communication, enhancing the learning experience. Interactive features like forums, messaging, and video conferencing support interactive learning. Tracking and reporting, so it provides tools for tracking student progress and performance, so you could identify where the student is at, how they need, if they need any extra support, how you're going to provide that support. A tracking system and reporting system is really good for students. The weaknesses are that technical issues, systems downtime, or technical glitches can disrupt learning and communication. So if there's any issues with technical issues, IT issues, that might be a weakness in regards to providing the information. Learning curves, so some users may find it challenging to navigate the learning management system without adequate training, and they would need training in regards to trying to get information around it, or to provide any sort of information or any sort of issues around it. So training would be needed for navigating the learning management system at UK Varsity. So a summary or table in regards to the communication systems. So we looked at websites and we looked at the strengths with 24/7 accessibility, comprehensive information, interactive features, and then the weaknesses was navigation issues, information overload. For emails, the strength is direct communication, automation, and tractability. And the weakness is spam filters, response time, and it goes into junk mails. Social media, real-time engagement, marketing, feedback, and the weakness is negative feedback, resource intensive. Things like, reputational feedback, and maybe the reviews may be bad. Telephone calls, the strengths, personal touch, immediate resolution. Weaknesses, availability and cost, like having, call centers, which would have a great cost implications. And then learning management system for LMS for UK Varsity is things like centralized platform, interactive features tracking. Weaknesses could be technical issues and learning curve. So this was all in regards to UK Varsity as an example for you. So conclusion and references. So in conclusion, organisations like UK Varsity Online use a variety of communication systems to effectively interact with customers. Each system has its strengths and weaknesses, which must be carefully managed to ensure optimal communication. Websites and emails provide comprehensive and direct communication, while social media offers engagement and feedback opportunities. Telephone calls deliver personal interaction, and the learning management system, educational communication, and resources. By leveraging these systems appropriately, organisations can enhance customer satisfaction and improve their service delivery. So it's really important to bear in mind that the use of different communications will help an organisation, and if you have the use of different communications within an organisation, it helps enhance the organisation's business, because the core element of any business organisation is customers, and to create and develop that strong relationship with them and communication with the customers will build lasting relationships for life. So these are the references we've used for today's session as well. Learning outcome 2. So it's just to give you a little bit of a summary of what we've done in learning outcome 2. I'm just going to recap on what we've done. So we looked at learning outcome 2 today, and we looked at understanding how organisations communicate with customers. We looked at what is formal and informal communication within an organisation. We looked at understanding how organisations communicate with customers. Things like listening to customers, customer complaints, and things like, making sure that they listen to the customers. We looked at elements of how a brochure is used as a tool of an organisation communication. We looked at how letters are used to communicate to customers and the importance and advantages of letters. We also looked at why newsletters are important to organisation and a form of communication, and why emails are so important in a form of communication. And we also looked at telephone calls in the form of modern technology and communication, and face-to-face communication and how that is effective. We then also looked at public relations and the importance of that. We looked at understanding how organisations communicate with customers. We looked at informal communications and informal communication channels such as social media. We looked at blogging, and we looked at influencers as well in regards to that elements of how influencers impact on communication. So that was a basic overview of what we did in Learning Outcome 2. And we finished Learning Outcome 2. The next Learning Outcome is Learning Outcome 3, which is the next session. So the plenary is to refer to ebooks and journals on the Moodle for this unit. Further readings I've put on there. There's a link there to a PDF document on article of communication. And any queries you have. And that article is really interesting, looks at elements of communication, the different types of communication, why effective communication is important within an organisation. If you have any questions or any queries about anything on today's session, you can email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. And submission of the assignment is to be done on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, and it's submitted 2 weeks after the learning outcomes have been completed. So the next learning outcome we'll be looking at is Learning Outcome 3. If you have no questions, thank you for attending the session, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you.